The term eugenics comes from Greek roots that mean good origins, and by the turn of the 20th century it came to represent the movement to incorporate genetics and breeding to advance the human race. It was created by Englishman Francis Galton in the 1800s when he decided that the English aristocracy was so successful due to their hereditary traits being passed down from upper-class breeding patterns. Probably doesn't surprise you that Francis Galton was strongly influenced by his cousin, Charles Darwin. When the eugenics movement crossed the pond to the United States, it slowly changed from a breeding principle into a discussion of how to eliminate certain undesirable traits from being passed to the next generation. A scientific and academic discussion transformed into a social movement which became the dark side of progressive era reforms. The American Eugenics Society, founded in the 1920s, started pushing for the sterilization of various groups, and the Supreme Court case Buck versus Bell basically gave states free rein when it came to who could be deemed undesirable. In the Buck versus Bell opinion, Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. famously wrote, "It is better for all the world if instead of waiting to execute degenerate offspring for crime, or to let them starve from imbecility, society can prevent those who are manifestly unfit from continuing their kind. 3 generations of imbeciles is enough." Systematic mass sterilization started with people with disabilities, but quickly targeted poor people, minorities, and women having sex out of wedlock. The eugenics movement also had ties to Margaret Sanger and the push for the birth control pill. Historians argue about the nuances and context of some of her quotes, that the push for birth control was rooted in, quote, "birth control was nothing more or less than the facilitation of the process of weeding out the unfit and of preventing the birth of defectives." If all this sounds familiar, it's probably because Hitler famously stated that he stole many of his ideas from America when he came up with his plan to create a master Aryan race. Hitler's policies during World War II caused the eugenics movement to lose steam in the United States, but many sterilizations continued to as late as the 1970s. Sterilization rates in the 1960s and 70s were particularly high in Native American communities, with an estimated 25 to 50% of Native women being sterilized without their knowledge. The idea of eugenics has resurfaced recently in the form of the CRISPR gene editing tool. Major bioethical questions have been raised, and most of the arguments are strongly rooted in the eugenics movement of the 19th and 20th century. So how do we make sense of these new developments? How do we completely dismiss a technology that could potentially wipe out genetic disorders that kill thousands of people per year? At the same time, where do you draw the line? And how do you prevent people from taking advantage of this technology? What do you think?